All right. Hi, I'm Sue Carney of Magnolias West. Welcome to our full moon circle. We're coming up on the full moon in Sagittarius tomorrow. And as I've been doing all year, I am gathering with everyone who can be with me live today and everyone who will listen to the recording later. I put the video on gallery view so that we can see each other, at least on my end. I know everyone has that control for themselves, but I want the recording to have that. And I am joined today by my Facebook friend, and we've been in classes together, Deborah Claire Proctor, who I will introduce in a moment, but I thought it would be really nice to just get into the circle together. So whether you're listening right now, Deb, or whether you join the call in the middle, we're going to do a few minutes of meditation. And then we will have some conversation. Yay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Thanks,
So I am inspired to do this really simple thing. I'm going to ring my bell. I have my bell right here. I'm going to ring my bell, and I just invite you. I'm going to do this 3 times. I'm going to invite you during the time that you can hear the bell before it fades to just watch your breathing. So that's all, really simple. So here we go. And if you can, put down whatever might be in your hands and feel your feet on the floor. And maybe sit up a little bit so that your heart can be forward and your chest open. All right, here we go. I hope you could hear that okay. Wasn't too piercing a noise.
Yeah, beautiful.
All right, well, let's continue on now that you've gotten that breath awareness. Keep your eyes closed if you can. And let your thoughts drift by like birds in the sky or clouds in the sky. Let them drift by. No attachment. And maybe put a hand on the center of your chest so you can feel your heart space. And feel it be really open. One of my teachers says, feel it open like a door in humble invitation, where positive feelings can enter. Positive feelings that are already present. But still, feel that humble invitation in your heart. And as you breathe and are aware of your heart space, just be aware of the color of the light you see behind your closed eyes. Could be blue, could be white, could be pink, could be black. And with your attention and intention on your heart, sense your breath flowing into your heart, kind of visualizing a clear green light entering your heart space. And as your breath goes in and out, ask yourself a question. Ask your heart what it needs to say, what it needs to tell you. Just this intention, this light, loving intention of asking your heart to express itself to you. And as we shift to the conversational part of this call, I invite you to be aware of that invitation and listen to what emotions may arise, or memory, or a wish, or a vision, a dream. Just allow yourself to be open and pay attention. And let's take another breath together, and then we'll come back into the space. No matter what you hear or feel, whether it's positive and lovely and exciting and juicy, or sad and difficult, respect it, and this is just what's present right now. And that idea that we don't have to hold on to the feelings, thoughts, memories, and dreams as they come through us can be really liberating. So welcome to the circle. Welcome to the full moon, where you might be feeling called to celebrate or acknowledge what has come to you. I'm getting warm. That's nice. Or you might feel called to, like I often do when I'm doing my Hineni, here I am chant, stamp your foot and say, here I am, and this is what I'm moving into next. However it may manifest for you. So I want to welcome you, Deborah, and thank you so much for joining me today. And I've enjoyed every conversation we've had, and I confess I don't know as much about you as I'd like to know. So I'm going to just start by asking you to just dive in and tell us a little bit about yourself and take your place in the circle.
Thank you, Sue, for creating this circle. I feel like we're holding hands, connected with who knows who, where around the world. It's just wonderful that you've created this space to be and to sense. And even with that little exercise, I could feel my heart just saying, oh, thanks for being here. And it's so important to take those moments. So I'm a multimedia artist, which means I'm a kind of mixed bag of love of theatre, love of art, of dance, of movement. Sometimes my work's in 2D, sometimes 3D, sometimes 4D. It's always shifting and changing. And that's been challenging at times, and has also been just a long, wonderful journey of learning. And I think that's my biggest addiction, really, learning. And learning how to be better, learning how to be more me, which is the challenge of being in the creative arts. And I think we met through the class of Molly Gordon, The Art of Living. And that for me was, again, another whole new learning of how to be more me, how to be more settled. And I'm intrigued about you as well, Sue. I don't know so much about, we're here on intuition, which I think is what we all need more of in the world. I think we're all hanging on a little bit. It's election day. I'm from the UK. Today we've got elections. So once again, people are feeling like there's so many things that are out of place, how little control we have. We sometimes feel like we're hanging on with our fingernails. So just creating these little moments to settle in is what gives me more and more pleasure all the time, and finding new and different ways to do that. And for me, this thing about your moon circles fascinates me, because I don't know much about astrology. However, I can't help but be impacted by the light of the moon. You know what I mean? That sometimes you just kind of go, what was strange about this day? And then I go out onto my balcony and you look up and there's just a light that's different. So for me, this is interesting that you're marking a moment, and that to me at the moment is something I'm really curious about, how we measure ourselves, how we're being measured, and how we measure ourselves. So like a full moon feels to me like it's just another point to go, where am I? Where was I? what worked, what didn't, where am I in these little spirals? And then it intrigues me as well, Sue, that you're doing this as a wise woman circle, because I think finding my femininity and what it means to be a woman, a feminist, has been a challenge at times as well, to work out the best way to do that. I remember my mother was somebody who always used to say, "A housewife's work is never done." And I just sometimes, you just feel like, oh my God, is that what being a woman is? We're just on this wheel all the time of things that never finish. So there's no completion, because there's always the next thing to do. So I think that's something that I'm curious about, is how as women we keep these spaces to create our own scales of reference. And there's something about being a woman that I love. I love the idea of cooking, and that it's a little bit, I feel like a bit of a witch.
Yeah.
Because it's something, to me, it's not a question of gender, of who does it or who doesn't do it. I just, for me, there's something as an artist that I do a lot of thinking, I do a lot of projecting in my imagination, and sometimes I need to touch something, I need to make something, I need to create in a very spontaneous way. So for me, there's lots in this moon circle that you're making. I'm going to stop and I'm in Argentina. I didn't mention this. There's a long historic connection between Wales and Argentina. So quite a few years ago, I made a first trip to do an artistic exchange with a choreographer here in Argentina. And that's kind of led to spending half my life in Argentina and half in Wales.
I never knew there was any kind of connection between Argentina and Wales until you told me about it. It seems very unlikely to me. So I'd love for you to speak some more about that. And then I finally had to write things down, because you hit like 3 things I want to ask you about. So I'm just going to throw them out there now, and I don't know what we'll get to.
Okay.
So I'm going to apologize in advance because I do that, but I should probably be able to figure out what the 4th dimension is in 4D. I have no idea. I want you to tell me. That's one. And the thing about the moon, about marking a moment, I could do that 28 days out of the month. I could mark the, first crescent moon and the waxing moon and but it works for me, for this witch, to just be aware of the waning and the waxing moon, and to mark it at the new and at the full, to mark the dark moon and the first sliver of the new moon in the sky, which in my religion of my birth, in Judaism, the women call that Rosh Chodesh, or everyone called it Rosh Chodesh. All that means is the new month, the head of the month.
Okay.
But women traditionally have circled during that time, 2 to 3 days after the dark moon, when the first tiniest sliver is visible in the sky.
Yeah.
And that has been a traditional time to set intentions and to whatever, withdraw from the community and make that kind of sacred magic. And at the full moon, is more kind of like the party vibe, the celebratory vibe. And today I had a meeting with a client, and she's having some trouble deciding how to handle a thing with her ex. And I said, it's the full moon tomorrow. Why don't you write down, do some free writing, write down. I mean, you could do this, or you could do that. You could write down stuff, put it under a bowl of water, and put that paper and the water out under the light of the moon tonight. Or you could write it down and burn it and float it, or whatever. And she just got happier by the moment at the idea that she could take these concerns and elevate them to ritual. People ask me, I don't want to go too far down this road, but I'll just say this. People ask me what I mean when I talk about priestess your life or priestess your brand. And for me, really, it's very simple. It's as simple as mindfulness. when I, as a woman, in brewing kombucha or making a bowl of rice or having this conversation with you or whatever, when I put as much of myself into that as I can, if I'm present, if I'm present, I'm elevating this to the sacred. I'm elevating it to the level of the sacred. And that's magic for me. That's the kind of magic I want in my life. I want more ability to be in the never-ending work and also to step away from that never-ending work that you described so well. I want to be able to do it with intention and not feel stuck, trapped, you know, all the things that can weigh on us so heavily.
I think you said it in your website somewhere about the transformation of the mundane.
Yes.
That's really, really beautiful of how to embrace that. Sometimes we need water. It's just like, where are these hands? Give me something. And there's an artist who I respect greatly, a British artist called Bobby Baker, and she, all her performances are around the routines of being a woman. She's got some very funny but beautiful observations about, you know, the little things. And one of hers is, and as an artist, she describes it beautifully, that having water, the sensation of water on your wrists when you do the washing up. And it is, check her out, Bobby Baker.
I will, I'm writing it down. You can put her in the chat if you find it.
I will. If I find it, I will. So that's celebration of transformation. And of course, burning something is transformation, washing it, boiling it, and that's in our DNA as housekeepers. And there's a part of that I just love. There's also
something, you know. Yeah.
So the 2D, 3D, 2D is flat, 3D is sculpture, I suppose. 4D is when there's a time aspect where what's produced. And I think there's 5D as well, but I haven't got that far yet.
So none of the Ds are sound or video.
Dimension is like 2 dimension, 3 dimension, 4 dimension, 5 dimension. Yeah, and that's the other thing about the moon which fascinates me, is that it kind of triangulates. It puts us in this position where it's kind of something above that's uniting us all. And what amuses me is my father, who's not superstitious at all. On a full moon, he goes out and he turns his money under the moon. And I don't know why, but it's...
You mean the money that's in his pocket?
Yeah, just takes out some money and he just he turns it under the moon, and it just amuses me greatly because I'm here in Argentina, he's there in Wales, and it's just this kind of little strange connection.
That's something to...
And again, I think these mundane moments is what we need to hang on in with. I did, as I said, I'm not an astrologer, I'm an artist, and also a mentor because I'm very interested in the human condition. I did read on a website today of somebody called Leah Whitehorse, that Sagittarius is meant to be the visionary house. So it's meant to be about thinking ahead, because Sagittarius is apparently Jupiter. I take these things with a pinch of salt. I feel like there's many lifetimes, there's many things to learn. Astrology isn't my thing, but as an artist, I like the poetic connection.
Well, so, Sagittarius is the archer, yeah? So it's very much get it going, do it, get it going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I am not much of an astrologer. When I first started working with the moon, I dove in hard in terms of looking researching where all the planets were at in each full moon, and I find that really I leave that to the astrologers who have made it their life's work. And for me, it's really just about what supports my being my best self in the world. And this is one of the things that does do that for me. And I, and I also, because I'm kind of more than slightly neurotic, I'm guessing. I like to, I make it be part of my schedule. So I play with the colors in my hair right before the new and full moon calls. And I change my sheets at the new and full moon, because why not? I mean, you have to do it sometime, and it feels really good to me to have that. I change my toothbrush at the solstices and the equinoxes. I mean, it's really simple that way.
Yeah, so, creating routines that support you, creating your own routines. I think that's really important.
But the thing about that I'm learning from my work with Molly, so with Molly Gordon, who you mentioned earlier, we were looking at the 3 principles of mind, consciousness, and thought in the art of living, right?
Yes.
And I've continued to study that. So that's like 2 years now, maybe, since I started becoming aware of this. And it's just beginning to penetrate my thick skull. And the big freedom I'm getting from that is that idea of living my life from the inside out, that I don't have to wait for circumstances to align themselves to how I think they must be in order for me to be okay. And instead, even though my circumstances could look pretty dire, and in some ways do right now, I am not doomed to be miserable or stressed or in fear about the things that are just circumstances in my life, which I think is the really good news for me, is that it frees me up, makes me feel less stuck and more able to be present and creative. Honestly, I think it opens up a creative space.
And changing the scales checking the scales that we measure ourselves on. And it's a funny thing about scales that I remember when I was about 8 years old, there was an exercise where we took the scales and we had to put things on one side and the other side to get the 2 sides to measure up. But somehow along the way, I missed that part of the lesson. And so I couldn't quite understand why everybody was doing kind of 1 cotton reel equals the weight of 10 feathers, or 1 banana equals. So I just completely made them up, and all wrong, because I was going, 1 feather equals 1 potato, or 10 apples equals and sometimes we're trying to balance scales that maybe we shouldn't even or don't even need to be on. And
well, that's a beautiful way to put that. So much of the agony I see in the world and in my work, in my clients, and in myself is all self-created. It's all self-created. I think that those kind of things just become so habitual that we don't see them. And that's why I'm really glad that I stuck with this new learning, even though I didn't understand any of it for long enough that it finally penetrated a little bit.
And then these places of making these new unions, new meetings, new measurements, I think is a great idea. How to be more me. I've also learned a lot this year from a coach called Samantha Bennett, who's a creativity coach, and she always says, well, if you're completely stuck and procrastinating and stressed, how can you make the moment more me? And for me as an artist, that's kind of like back to the drawing board, because often there can be sticking points in a project, and the only way through is often, well, back to the drawing board. Where am I? What is it where's me? We do lose that because we get worried about money, worried about career, worried about status. And then sometimes it's just coming back to a very small thing, like, how does it feel to have clean water on my wrists? And just kind of check back into those. What's it like to have that light of the moon shining down, that's been shining down on people for millennium? How can I measure myself against something smaller, something bigger? I once ran a workshop for actors who had stage fright, one of the images that we came up with, I was using neuro-linguistic programming and other techniques. One of the images we had was lower your standards. And you actually realize when you say standards was what you went out to war with.
Oh my God,
like,
yes.
Your standard up there.
Yes.
Like, well, maybe I just need to lower my standards and then stop giving myself a hard time. So all these practices, we all know them, we've all touched, and it's again just coming back sometimes to all there is a hand on your heart and giving yourself a little bit of kindness again to get re in the game.
You remind me, do you know Jennifer Loudon? She's one of my teachers also. And one of the classes I took with her, she talked about lowering the bar, lowering the bar, and conditions of enoughness. So, and I tend to be so strict with myself. Oh my God, until recently, I was like, I do Tai Chi every day. And if I miss a day, something is wrong with me. Or I write in my journal every day, whatever it is. And I'm a whole new person now because I do Tai Chi when I really feel like I want to. And I write in my journal when I really feel like I want to. And I don't worry about it much. But I used to worry about it a lot. And when Jen said in one of her classes, lower the bar. You can have your bottom line. You can also have a top line. So if I want to walk a lot because it feels so good when I'm walking on a street, in a park, at the beach, it doesn't matter. If I want to walk, then I have conditions of enoughness. If I walk 3,000 steps a day, I am happy. And when I walk 8, 9, 10,000 steps a day, I'm ecstatic, but it doesn't matter how often that happens. I just do check my technology to make sure that I've moved around enough in the day. And if not, I am known to put on my coat at night and walk around the block a couple of times just because my body responds so well to the oxygen. But I also know that if I skip a day, I can trust myself. And that is incredibly liberating. So I just noticed the time, my love. Do you, I don't know what kind of work you're doing with people, with individuals these days, but do you want to offer something to my listeners?
Yeah, please. Please be in touch. My email is the email of my production company. It's called Clear Insight. And so the email address is info@clearinsight.co.uk. That's clear as in day, insight as in vision, hopefully, .co.uk, Clear Insight. And I'm going to be running fairly soon some 2-month mini mentoring programs, which are kind of going to be some 2 group sessions and then 4 half-hour sessions for people who just want a bit of a leg up on a project or a problem or something that's kind of phasing them a bit. Talking about moon phasing. So be in touch and you can sign up for my newsletter and keep in touch with me there. I'm also on LinkedIn, so if you look at Deborah Proctor or Claire Proctor, I think there's only 3 Proctors in the world, Deborah Claire Proctors. You should be able to find me. And yeah, this is a fascinating journey of reorientating. And I think you've been very intuitive, Sue, in realizing that the moon is just a marvelous moment to do that. And it's all sparkly and a bit, it's a bit weird, isn't it? There's something about the full moon that does make us kind of, because it's night, but you can see and you can see everything, and that's the magic. It does change. It's a change point. So I think it's really exciting what you're doing. I salute you for it. So we could just finish off maybe. Can we just maybe finish off with again, putting hands on heart, with your hand on your heart. Send yourself whatever little wave of kindness that you can send to yourself. Whatever wave of softness that can go right down into your sitting bones. And just let some of the weight that we carry around our necks and our backs, that can go. And sink into some enoughness on this June full moon, where we might be on a scale we don't even know about, so we can give a space for some pleasant surprises as well as.
Oh yeah. It's one of my favorite things is to say this or something better. This or something better.
This or something better. Yeah, beautiful.
Yes. All right, may we all be beautifully surprised. And I want to hear from everyone. So
yes, this is a conversation.
By Monday, probably I will post this recording. And Deborah, I invite you at that time. I will tag you to make sure to put your offer again in a comment on the YouTube channel as well as in Facebook. So people can see it.
Well, one last thing then. Can you hear this?
Yes. Is it a... Thank you so much.
Bye.
That was awesome. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.